Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Bonjour, les amis, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, everybody? I hope you all had a nice little week, a time to have fun, a time to relax, a time to go and make progress on whatever projects you're doing, because I gotta say that, honestly, I've been feeling tired. Mainly because I've been doing a lot of physical work, considering that for the past few days, I've been shoveling. There's been a bunch of snowfalls that have occurred, and plus the fact that in one of them, there's been a lot of high winds as well, and that combination just makes a massive bunch of annoyance where a good chunk, I think a total of a bunch of hours, I've just been outside shoveling. Even before starting the show, I've been shoveling, and it's been ridiculous. As I've been just pitching out all the snow, it just makes me wonder who the fridge pissed off Elsa to give us a storm like this. It's been utterly ridiculous so far, and springtime could not come soon enough. Or at least I hope it's going to be coming in quicker than usual. But anyways, before we go and officially begin, I would like to go and make an announcement. This is actually something that on social media I did give out a little bit of a hint, but now I could go and make a full-blown announcement on it. Now, this is actually something that I've been considering to do, especially as part of my 2025 New Year's resolutions. It took some time to actually get to it because, well, you probably know last month a lot of things has happened to me. However, I finally found the time to go and actually initiate it. And it is with great honor that I go and announce that What's in the Box is coming back. Yes, folks, I have reopened my P.O. box. I decided, you know what, why the fridge not? I'll go and bring this back, and I'll even return What's in the Box as well. However, there is a little bit of a catch, though. I do want to say that this reboot of What's in the Box is going to be a little bit different, because I'm not going to go and do the usual video series like I've done a few years ago. What I'm going to be doing is that I will be making What's in the Box live. I will be doing What's in the Box on my Twitch channel, which is AniMat Live. So, by the way, thank you, Edward, for being a new fish. But back to what I was saying. With What's in the Box, yes, I'll be doing it as a live show on Twitch where I'll be opening letters and packages, and we'll be reacting live to them. And on top of that, we could go and have a nice little chat afterwards. It won't just be What's in the Box, but it'll also be a time to to chill, to be relaxing, just to have a little bit of fun. So, by the way, one more important thing to go and mention is regarding the address. Maybe some of you listening or watching, you might be interested in sending me some things and participate in What's in the Box. And, actually, before I do get into that, I just want to go and quickly mention as well that after I do the live shows on Twitch, I will be uploading them onto my second YouTube channel, the one that is currently called AniMat Plays. So don't worry, if you miss out on the Twitch stream on it, I will be uploading it later. On YouTube. But back to the address. If you want to go and send me either a letter or a package and participate in What's in the Box, then you could go and send it to Matt Brunet or AniMat, P.O. Box 96514, Kirkland, RPO, Brunswick, Quebec, H9H5L4, Canada. So I just thought I would go and mention that as well. But yes, What's in the Box is coming back, and my P.O. Box has officially been reopened. But this is not why we are here. This is not what's in the box. This is AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So why don't we go and actually get into that? And Chadwell, I would like to go and ask you all, are you prepared for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it. Are you all ready? Let's see now. Yes, people are ready. People are prepared. That is beautiful. All right, that's great to see. People are prepared for this. And I hope so, because we definitely have a fun-filled episode. And with that said, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story, we're going to go and ease into this a little bit. We're going to go with something fun, with something soft, with something nice. And this will especially go out to the people who are in the spectrum. Yeah, I know, kind of a surprising thing to go and mention, but yes, for you autistic listeners and watchers out there, this one will be especially for you because this is an animated project in which it has some autistic people actually involved. And this is called God's Gang. Yes, the animated web series God's Gang has now announced that there is going to be a new miniseries called We Didn't Start the Fire, which will be featuring God's Gang in another action adventure where this time they will be facing forest fires, which is very timely, as you can imagine, considering with what happened in Los Angeles. And before I continue, they even put out a little teaser of what's going to be happening in one of the episodes. So let's just go and have a quick little look at what's in store with the upcoming God's Gang special of We Didn't Start the Fire.
Just another camping trip in the woods? Not for God's Gang. We didn't start the fire. An adventure set to ignite.
And that is We Didn't Start the Fire as part of the God's Gang animated series. And for those of you who are not as familiar with what God's Gang is, God's Gang, like, you might think that, oh, this is like another like Christian little thing, but no, this is actually a lot more different. It is a religious series, but unlike other religious shows and religious media, this is actually a combination of different religions actually working together, with characters featuring Sumo Slim, who is the big Muslim guy. Then you also got Taekwon Hindu, Ninju, and Criss Cross, in which they all work together to go and fight crime and fight against evil, which you could imagine the bad guys represented by the devil and stuff like that. But specifically, in regards to We Didn't Start the Fire, it's stated right over here, just to go give you a quick summary, reading from my source on Animation Magazine. It states here, in We Didn't Start the Fire, we find Sumo Slim, Taekwon Hindu, Ninju, and Criss Cross, the four interfaith heroes, deep in a forest, and something is about to go terribly wrong. With a wildfire is spreading rapidly and their usual tools and technology failing, God's Gang must rely on their instincts, teamwork, and unexpected help of a mysterious new ally to navigate the danger. Woven into the story is God's Gang's signature mix of action and humor, alongside deeper themes of faith, resilience, compassion, and teamwork. Ultimately, the message reinforces across the episodes is that challenges, whether personal or global, can be overcome through faith, trust, and cooperation. Now, at this point, some of you might be wondering, well, Matt, what do you mean by, this being specifically for people in the spectrum? What does autism have to do with God's Gang? Well, believe it or not, this is actually one of those animated series that is actually developed, or at least actually got the additional assistance from people who are in the autism spectrum. And one prominent example is a new cast member by the name of Atticus Baldwin, a veteran actor who is also part of autism and entertainment. And I'll even say right now, I actually do know the people of autism in entertainment. They're great people. I've even collaborated with them on some projects. And with autism in entertainment, they actually helped out to team up with God's Gang in order to bring in Atticus Baldwin to be a part of the series. And I'll even go and read you this part here to go into full details about Baldwin's involvement. As an autistic actor, Baldwin is an advocate for neurodivergence representation in entertainment. Baldwin's involvement is part of God's Gang's partnership with Spectrum Laboratories, or Spec Labs, an organization dedicated to training and supporting neurodivergent artists in entertainment. This initiative underscores the series' broader commitment to fostering real industry changes. And on top of that, Atticus won't be the only one who will be a part of this series. There is also Kathy McCauley, who is the head of Spectrum Laboratories voiceover department, who is also going to be part in this, as well as Tyler Berman, whom you actually just heard his voice in the trailer of what we have seen here with God's Gang. And I'd even also want to go and mention that with God's Gang, it's actually a pretty popular series, at least on the internet, where it even says here that the YouTube channel of God's Gang has so far accumulated 1.66 million subscribers. And this is something that I thought that, you know what, considering that the people at Autism Entertainment, like, they mentioned this to me, it's like, hey, check this out. Look at what our, look at what our organization is also involved with. And you know what? I thought it's honestly really cool and to go and help out to actually promote, because, not only do we have like people with autism helping things out with the production, especially in terms of voice acting in this case, but also, I'm not going to lie, looking into this series, it does sound very intriguing, and the concept is actually very nice. Because, when you would hear about these religious type shows, like usually you would think of the ones that would be related to Christianity. And there are some that, sometimes they would lean in a little too hard on the Christianity aspect to the point of making the religion look a little bit unappealing. And then there are those that are nice and actually do give the faith a good reputation, such as VeggieTales. But in this one here, this isn't exclusively about Christianity. It's about many other religions as well, and we see them working together. We got Judaism, we got Muslim, we got Hindu, and we got Christianity, which, funny enough, is represented by the Afro, the Afro-wearing disco man here. Anyways, I just kind of find it funny that, we got some guy who looks like he came straight out of the 70s representing Christianity. But you know what? All jokes aside on the design of the character, I will say, though, it is nice to see how, we see many different religions now, actually coming together in order to go and fight crime, and actually showing the similarities between these religions, between, how Christians are no different than Jews, than Muslims and Hindus, and that there are some elements that actually do intertwine together, and how they can use their faith for good, and how they can actually work together in order to make the world a better place. It's one of those, I know, with religion in general, it is often a hot button topic, and there are a lot of, elements in religion that can really go bad, especially when it comes to the conservative brand of Christianity, that whenever you would hear the bad stories about Christians doing horrible things like genocide and stuff like that, it's usually on the conservative side that is often to go and blame. But in this case here, it does show it more in a positive light. And especially with this special here with We Didn't Start the Fire, I understand that does feel like they're going in another hot button topic, especially when it comes to wildfires and with what has happened in California. It is nice that, they're also going to go and try to address that as well, and how they can go and use that element to go and actually help people out. It's a nice little thing. And not to mention, with the additional element of autism in there, I think it's something that I would recommend for autistic people, especially autistic animation fans, that maybe you should go and actually check out. If you want to go and support autistic people who are in the industry, then you should go and check out stuff like God's Gang and to go and actually support them. Because I know with many autistic people out there, they dream of actually working into the industry, that they want to become animators, they want to become show creators, they want to become voice actors even. And watching something like this, it should give, I feel like it should give them some inspiration that their dreams can be possible, even with their neurodivergence, especially when you do have organizations like Autism and in Entertainment and Spectrum Labs who actually do go out and actually help them to grow, to actually grow their opportunities, to help go and actually make their dreams actually happen, and like able to go and take, actually help take their talents and their aspirations and actually go and bring them to life and actually be involved with some legitimate projects such as God's Gang. So that's why I just want to go and give a shout out to God's Gang, and especially with the special that they do have here with We Didn't Start the Fire, and even bringing in some autistic actors involved, such as Atticus Baldwin. I think this is a pretty awesome thing. So yeah, I just want to go and quickly give out a shout out to God's Gang and We Didn't Start the Fire. And if you are interested in checking it out, then I highly recommend that you go and at least go subscribe to the God's Gang YouTube channel and go and look up We Didn't Start the Fire, which will be coming out on February 19th. So with that said, now I would like to pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about God's Gang? What do you all think about the little trailer that we have seen? And especially if you guys have actually seen God's Gang, I would like to know what you think. So let me know what you guys have to say on this. All right, so let's see here. I honestly don't have much to say about this, but I could definitely see how this can appeal to people with different religions. Also, someone who is autistic myself, I'm glad that people who are autistic get the opportunity to work on this series, so this definitely has my curiosity. All right. I'm actually the one who's actually familiar with this series. I first discovered God's Gang through Saberspark when he watched and reviewed the series a while back. And while I haven't seen the series myself, the fact that they're hiring people who are on the autism spectrum, it definitely feels very sweet and amazing. I'm wishing the team behind the spin-off the best of luck, because in a world of Christian shows, we definitely need more of them that are secular and positive. Take Little Dog of the P. I think there should be more to that. I don't think it's called Little Dogs on the P. Oh, Little Dogs on the Prairie. Okay, Little Dogs on the Prairie. I gotcha. And honestly, I'm not really that surprised that Saberspark did take a look at God's Gang, considering that, often he would go and check out these religious type shows and like he would go and review it. Like he did find that specific niche that actually did help his channel a lot. So that is definitely worth highlighting. Let's see now. I've never watched God's Gang on YouTube, but this got me curious. The concept of religious heroes looks interesting, and it's made by people who are in the autism spectrum, just like I have. But that title, We Didn't Start the Fire, reminds me of the one song by Billy Joel of the same name. It makes me want to picture that song in this episode and sing along, but then again, it would be considered copyright. I am pretty curious about this series, and maybe I'll give it a watch. I'm just going to go out on a limb, and I'm just going to say that I think that could be the reason why they actually titled it that. I think it's like to go and make that little bit of a connection. I'd honestly be amazed if God's Gang would actually include that song in the actual series itself, if they could actually afford that copyright to go and include it in there, but who knows? But anyways, I've never heard of the show besides the Saberspark video, but it's already got my attention thanks to its badass concept. A lot of my best friends are on the spectrum, and it's amazing seeing them being recognized in such a genuine way, especially when it comes to the casting of Atticus Baldwin, which may be the coolest name I've heard all day. So heed these words: when it comes to good autism representation, don't be a good doctor or a music. Be a God's gang. Exactly. You know, you want to be, yeah, exactly. You want to be like one of those guys. You don't want to be a surgeon. Do not be a surgeon. Oh my God. It's kind of crazy how like The Good Doctor went on to become such a major show. It's like, it's kind of crazy to think. It's like, my God, it had so many seasons, didn't it? Anyways, let's go and move on to let's move on to another comment here. Let's see, anybody else has anything to say? Let's see. I hate how the word autistic made it sound like a disease. Okay, well, hopefully that's not what I did. You know, I just don't want to go and hopefully I'm not using that as a disease. I just, you know, just want to go and lay that out there. You know, I'm not saying that it is a disease. I understand that it is just a, you know, it's part of like the neurodivergence realm. You know, it's like no different than stuff like ADHD, or I think dyslexia is also part of that. But like, I'm not saying that autism is a disease. I just want to go and lay that out there. Let's see now. Well, what other? Let's see what other comments are there. I'm a usual autistic person, and I've never heard of it before until now. I wonder if they are applying applications right now so that I could work on this show. As a former Christian, I'd like to check this out and support it ASAP. I know there are amazing autistic folks in the industry. Glad to hear there's a studio out there there's a studio out there only for this community. Exactly. Like there are ways that you could go and look it up, especially around the Los Angeles area. There are groups that do represent autism and actually help them get into the entertainment industry. And like I've mentioned before, like two prominent examples I've already given out are Autism and Entertainment and what is it? Spectrum Laboratories, I believe. Yeah, I think it's Spectrum Laboratories. Let's see. As a guy with Asperger's, it's a nice breath of fresh air to see something that tackles mental health. Well, okay, it's not necessarily about mental health. I just want to go and make a clarification. Like, this isn't about autism. I just want to go and highlight something that is that has autistic people involved in the production. So I just want to go and make that kind of clarity. Unless you would go and consider religion to be a mental health issue, well, that's another subject in particular. All right, but anyways, let's see. Unrelated, but have you heard about the movie Niza 2? I heard it's an animated movie made in China that is swiftly breaking box office records and on its way to becoming the highest grossing animated movie of all time since it just beat out the Lion King remake. Yes, I've heard of it, but I'm not going to be talking about this on this episode. I think I'm going to be saving that for next week because I think very, very soon Niza 2 is going to be breaking like the real big record. And that will be the time where I will get to talk about it. But trust me, I've been keeping my eye on Niza 2 and what it's been doing at the box office, because that is a whole crazy story to go and talk about. But I'll be saving that for later. And with that said, we're going to go on to our first break. And when we do come back, we're going to go and look into another trailer. And this time around, we're going to be looking into something a little bit different. We're going to be looking into a very special documentary that will look into the realms of Walt Disney World that not many people would go and talk about. Or should I say, some of the well-known mischiefs of Walt Disney World. You'll know what I'm talking about when we come back after this. All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story, I think I might have to go and do some clarifications here because I see the chat wall might be a bit confused in terms of interpreting what I just said. No, this is not specifically about Disney. Disney didn't do anything in this case. It's not necessarily what Disney did, it's what happened in Disney. And some people even said, oh, well, is this another Escape from Tomorrow? Oh, no. This is something that is more fascinating than Escape from Tomorrow, and hopefully a lot more competently made than Escape from Tomorrow. What this is actually is something very intriguing, and I think I'll go and let the trailer speak for itself. So with that said, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for the upcoming documentary, Stolen Kingdom.
Now to a very strange crime at Walt Disney World.
Did you steal Buzzy?
And that is Stolen Kingdom, to which for now, it's only going to be making its cycles in film festivals. In fact, if you actually go on the official site of Stolen Kingdom, right now, they're just doing little festival tours like they did the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival in Montana, and they're going to premiere also in Los Angeles at the Slam Dance Film Festival, and they will have more soon. But considering that this is from Bright Sun Films, from YouTuber Jake Williams, who is a producer, I believe, or an executive producer, Jake will, I don't know if maybe in the future we will see Stolen Kingdom actually be fully uploaded onto his YouTube channel. But I gotta say, as a Disney fan, especially someone who is very interested in the Disney parks, this documentary, honestly, is very fascinating because it dives deep into the subculture of, I know that there are many different names for them, like Disney trespassers, or what they say in the documentary, urban explorers. But basically, the groups of people who go into the forbidden areas at the Disney parks, or in this case, specifically in Walt Disney World. The kind of people who don't listen to the instructions to remain seated in their vehicles, who actually do go out and actually step into the sets and into the areas and the rides, or especially in the closed sections at Walt Disney World, like the places that are pretty much barred from the public, that are pretty much abandoned, and that Disney has left gone. You know, places such as Discovery Island, for example. But what's also interesting to note is that when it comes to these people, over time, what they would go and do, well, they take their actions increasingly to the extreme. That it's not just about trespassing onto forbidden areas at the Disney parks. It's not just hanging around alongside the animatronics in rides like Pirates of the Caribbean or It's a Small World and stuff like that. It's all like suddenly it just grows more and more and more, where suddenly thievery would also get involved, that these people would go and actually take elements from the ride and that they would try to go and steal in the black market. And they would keep, and this would keep on going again and again and again. But then, as you probably seen in the documentary, they would go and mainly highlight one of what people would go and say is possibly the biggest heist that has ever happened in Walt Disney World. And that is the theft of Buzzy. Here, I'm going to go and put in yeah, there we go. At least we're going to make Buzzy look pretty good here. Now, for those of you who don't know, Buzzy is an animatronic in the old attraction called Cranium Command that was part of Wonders of Life, which is a closed section at Epcot. And in Cranium Command, Cranium Command is pretty much a show where it looks into, it's basically a precursor to Inside Out in a way, where you got this kid, Buzzy, who's taking command of a teenage boy inside his brain and try to figure out how is he going to go and navigate through life. And during the show as well, you do have this animated show prior, like as part of the pre-show. But then when you actually go in the show, you actually get inside the brain and you're joined alongside Buzzy to go and figure out how to go and navigate the boy's life. It's basically the Disney parks answer to Inside Out before Inside Out was ever made. But the point is, this animatronic of Buzzy, it was actually just a few years ago that it was stolen. That somehow the entire animatronic of Buzzy just disappeared overnight. And I just want to go and make a clarification, by the way, that this is just a very quick summary of what I am talking about. This is just like the basic information that you need to know about Buzzy and the whole theft of him. I believe it was Jenny Nicholson that actually did an entire video dedicated to the entire situation, in which she would go and perfectly clarify the whole case with the Buzzy theft. Like, why is it such a big deal? The history of Cranium Command and all that kind of stuff. But even if you don't care about Cranium Command, about Disney, about Epcot, or about Buzzy, like even if you don't know any of the context, the whole point is that someone somehow went inside an abandoned area at Epcot in Walt Disney World and was able to steal an animatronic that's like hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of just full-on steel and hydraulics and made that disappear overnight. How the fridge would you be able to go and pull that off? Now, I believe I might have talked about this before. Like, I remember back when it was fresh, back when the whole situation was like new and Buzzy was just stolen from Epcot. And I remember there was a guy named Patrick who was accused of actually stealing it. And it's funny because in this documentary, they actually did show that they would go and actually have a chat with this guy. And they even showed elements of like from what happened specifically. Like if we go over here, like, yeah, we see the disappearance. But there's one specifically, I do recall, where was it? I'm trying to remember. Okay, yeah, it's like right over here. Yeah, this part. Okay, oh yeah, oh my God, it was back in 2018 that this occurred. Okay, so like, yeah, this part here, like, oh my God, like the police interrogation with this Patrick guy, it was honestly freaking crazy. Like just watching the video where they were just interrogating him and like the dude knows that he was caught. Like there's no true confirmation that he stole Buzzy himself, but he was actually caught stealing other elements at Walt Disney World. Like he was caught like trespassing in areas where he shouldn't have gone. And he went inside rides where he would steal elements like in the Haunted Mansion and stuff like that and try to sell it in the black market. So he got caught doing so. And in the police investigation or in the interrogation, they would go and talk to him and like he would try to get himself out of it. But the police had to go and like constrain him, like just to quickly go back a little bit, like, yeah, right over here, like, oh my God, it was just so wild to go and see that occur. But one thing I will say, the biggest thing that does fascinate me about this is that it looks like we might actually have a conclusion about the whole Buzzy situation, that we might actually have an answer to what ultimately happened to Buzzy, or at the very least, what happened to this guy. In fact, they even had a chat with him, like the big stinger right at the end over here where we see him actually talking or having that interview and pretty much asking that big question.
Did you steal Buzzy?
Like, just through that hesitation, like, I gotta say, this trailer is actually well made just for that stinger alone, like, right at the end. Like, I don't know about you, but as a Disney fan myself and someone who was aware about that news story, I want to see where this goes. I want to see this answer to be had. And by the way, I did notice that some people have even pointed this out, like, even just with the background, it's actually, like, perfectly placed, where they interviewed this Patrick guy, and just right beside him, we see one of the Mr. Toad Devils just like conveniently placed on his shoulder. Like, just that cinematography for that little interview, I gotta say, that is fascinating right there. But honestly, yeah, I feel like this would be something that is worth exploring, that is honestly worth talking about, because it's kind of like an open secret where we do see these people actually go out of their way and try to enter into these forbidden areas of Walt Disney World, or even like this underground group of thieves that would take elements of Walt Disney World and try to sell that onto the black market. And by the way, I just want to go and address, because I know there are going to be those people, like, I understand that they'll be upset, that they are upset with Disney, and they'll see this and consider this to be a good thing. It's like, stealing from Disney is actually a good idea. You should be doing that. I'm just going to go and say that if you want to do something to go, to fight back against Disney, more power to you. But I'm just going to say, this ain't it, Chief. This is honestly not it. You're not really doing those actions of trespassing in areas in Walt Disney World and stealing elements from the ride. That doesn't actually do much damage to Disney. If anything, what you're doing is ruining people's vacation. So you end up looking more like a jerk, more so than actually doing damage to the Walt Disney Company. So honestly, those actions are not worth it. If you want to go and try to fight the Disney Corporation, more power to you. But I would not recommend this, because it doesn't do much to hurt Disney, and it's just going to make you a criminal. Like, it's just going to, you're just like, you're deliberately putting yourself in the police's criminal records. So I just want to go and highlight that right there. But still, though, looking into this group, I still do find this to be fascinating. And that's why, as a Disney fan myself, especially one who is intrigued in the Disney parks, I am very curious to see what this documentary is about. What is it that they are going to show and, highlight and discuss about this specific group of people out there? Like, to see this, the mischiefs of Walt Disney World. And I know especially that cast members, like the people who have worked at Walt Disney World, they have talked about how they have been warned by the managers at Walt Disney World to keep an eye out for those specific kinds of people, and that they're actually considered to be like legends in amongst cast members. Now, rather if that's like good legends or like bad legends, that's up to interpretation. But still, though, I really want to see this documentary. This definitely has caught my attention. And overall, we don't know when this is going to be officially coming out to the public. We don't know if there is going to be like a full-on release, like a public-wide release, or if Jake is going to go and fully upload it onto his YouTube channel. I hope so, because I do know that Kevin Perjurer did do that at one point. Like, he did produce like a full-on documentary. And I don't just mean like as part of like Defunct Land and stuff like that, but created his own documentary that is part, that is like based on like a rock group of Tomorrowland, I believe. And he was able to go and fully upload that on YouTube. And I do hope that Jay can also do that with Stolen Kingdom. But hey, if it does come to a film festival near you, then keep an eye out for that. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you think of Stolen Kingdom? Are you guys interested in checking this out? And if you've been to, or if you've been a cast member, I would love to know what you think, and if you've heard about these tales about these mischievous trespassers. Let me know what you all think. All right, so let's see now. I'll say I never thought I'd be interested to see a documentary crime series or documentary crime scene ever since Quiet on Set, except more about the abandoned and thefts from the Disney parks. In fact, I remember you talked about this moment years back with a comical moment featuring the investigation. It's even fascinating they made an entire documentary based upon the moment. Like, I'll say now, even I want to dig into this, and this thievery and crime scenes literally has my full attention. I am sold. All right, well, it definitely got, well, someone is intrigued to see what's going on here. Let's see. I can't wait to check out Stolen Kingdom and see how Disney's animatronic Buzzy vanished into thin air. It's like watching Johnny Somali, but instead of streaming chaos, it's a whodunit with a robot star. I bet Buzzy's more elusive than a good Wi-Fi signal. Definitely a lot more elusive. Like, honestly, there are places where you can get good Wi-Fi. Like, I would even say, like, my Wi-Fi here has been, like, strongly stable. So, like, I understand what good Wi-Fi is. But with Buzzy, though, oh yeah, that is a mystery I want to see solved. I want to see whatever happened to Buzzy. Let's see here. As a theme park fan and a longtime Disney Parks fan that has only been to Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea, I've never been to Walt Disney World before. I have heard of Figment and this Buzzy thing before that was stolen. But I am a fan of Jake Williams since his Target Canada video from several years ago. I wonder when will the LA premiere happen? I want to see it. Oh, and I'm outside of Walt Disney Animation Studios right now. I'm just saying hi to my pals there. Oh, nice. Hey, if you can, like, I also want to say hi as well to those people. But if you're curious about Los Angeles, it's actually going to be very soon. In fact, as I'm recording this, it's going to be next week, where it will be at the Slam Dance Film Festival on February 23rd and 24th. So I just want to go and give you a heads up on that there. Let's see what other comments would there be to read. I wasn't really all that aware of this whole thing at first. But then again, where did the Mr. Potato Head animatronic go for all those years? All jokes aside, however, this is a really interesting story. Like, a whole animatronic dude just up and disappeared. It's kind of hard not to ask the question. Overall, color me $12 lighter. That's not me buying a ticket. That's me buying a Mickey ice cream bar. Yeah, you might as well make it like a whole Disney thing. Like, get your Mickey ice cream bars and get your Dole Whips ready to go and check this out. Oh, I know. Hey, you know what? To go with the theme, I still have a Disney popcorn bucket. I'll go bring that, fill that up with popcorn, and go watch the show. All right. Let's see what else we got. This is definitely a fascinating documentary. It definitely seems like it's really going to look into the kind of people who would sneak into old and abandoned Disney attractions, and it definitely seems fascinating. Also, one of these stories that has always fascinated me was apparently people snuck into the old abandoned Nickelodeon studios at Universal Studios Orlando and seeing the remains of the old studio. Exactly, like these people do not just target Disney. Like, these people will go, like, the reason why they're called urban explorers instead of, like, Disney explorers or, like, slap onto the Disney brand. Like, yeah, some of their more prominent explorations will be Walt Disney World, but that doesn't mean they're going to go and explore other abandoned areas as well, especially places like in Universal Studios or SeaWorld and stuff like that. Anywhere that is like very prominent and very attracted by tourists, but have been left abandoned, like they'll definitely try to go and explore right there. And that could also be like another interesting thing to go and check out. Like to see people talking about like their discoveries on what they've done with Universal Studios, like with the Nickelodeon studios and stuff like that. Maybe that could be like a sequel to Stolen Kingdom. Like, who knows? Maybe this is a problem that Universal has also been facing, where people would go and steal elements from Universal Studios and that they would sell it in the black market as well. There could be value there too. All right, let's see what other comments are there. Let's see. Man, this trailer already caught my attention. As someone who's a major fan of Bright Sun Films, excellent channel by the way, definitely check out if you haven't, this got me hooked. Urban exploring and abandoned places, especially in Disney, are very fascinating to me since I was a teenager. It's one of my favorite things I learned about Disney and theme parks in general. I'm definitely hyped to watch this documentary if I can. Again, huge fan of BSF, so yeah, I'm down to support Jake Williams. All right, interesting. Let's see. I think I'll read one more comment. Let's see here. Ooh. Talk about perfect timing. I just came back from Walt Disney World and even saw the Wonders of Life building back on Saturday. This is such a fascinating story and discussion, being a niche subgroup with a more prominent group. I remember hearing about the Buzzy animatronic going missing, but it wasn't until the documentary that made me realize how crazy it actually is. Makes you wonder what's the next big thing to be stolen. Maybe the Statue of Liberty, the small one from Las Vegas. I see where you're going. I get that reference. But yeah, honestly, I think this is the kind of documentary that it's not just for Disney fans, but if you are interested in a good heist story, then this is worth checking out. Again, you could just not care about Disney whatsoever, but the idea of making a whole Disney animatronic disappear overnight from an abandoned ride, that is intriguing. That is definitely intriguing. So in that regards, if you are excited to go and check out Stolen Kingdom, then keep an eye out for it, that it could be coming to a film festival near you, or maybe Jake is going to go and make some updates. Who knows? All right, so we're going to go and take a break now. And when we do come back, I have one more trailer to go and show you, but this is going to be a little bit different, though. It's going to be the biggest compared to God's Gang and Stolen Kingdom, but it's also arguably the worst trailer of the lot. So brace yourselves and stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, on our next story, this is going to be a trailer for yet another live-action remake. In fact, 2025 is going to be quite an overwhelming year for live-action remakes in general. It's already enough that later on this year, or pretty soon actually, Disney is going to be delivering not one, but two live-action remakes that they're going to be putting out on the big screen. We got the Snow White remake that's going to be coming very soon, and then after that, we're getting the Lilo and Stitch remake. However, when it comes to this one, it's actually not from Disney. However, considering the things that it will do and the tactics on how it approaches it as a remake, you would have to keep reminding yourself that it is not Disney. In fact, this is actually from Universal taking a DreamWorks film and turning that into one of their remakes and their interpretation of the whole trend. So with that said, let us go and check out the trailer for the upcoming live-action remake of How to Train Your Dragon.
The terrible terror!
It's like the size of my...
And that is How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action remake, to which it will be coming out in theaters on June 13th. And I'm not gonna lie, you probably have seen my reaction to the teaser trailer, and I was very much not impressed by what I have witnessed. From what I saw, even from the small clips that we have experienced, it just felt like they're just gonna go and do the same thing. In fact, even Toothless looks exactly like how he did in the animated feature. It's just now the Vikings and the setting of Berk is going to be in live action. That feels like that's the only difference. Now, when I saw this trailer, however, now that we have seen the full trailer and we got much more of a bigger picture of what we are about to experience with this How to Train Your Dragon remake, honestly, I feel like I am getting the same vibes as I had when I would watch the trailer of Snow White or the Snow White remake. It's just that, yeah, there are some things that are noticeably different than what it would do with Snow White, but it's just this, and the feeling of emptiness that what I'm about to experience is, it's a movie that's just so unnecessary. There's no reason for this movie to come out, at least in terms of a creative standpoint, because all I see, like, when it comes to many of its creative decisions, when I see what they would go and do with the movie and like how they're going to be executing it, the only way that I would try to go and justify why they would keep doing these things, I just feel like it's all just for business purposes. It's all for the sake of making money, and there's nothing creatively that gives us something that feels fresh, that feels new, that feels exciting, that makes us want to go and actually check this movie out, to make us feel like, oh, this is going to be a different How to Train Your Dragon experience, because for the most part, it really isn't. And that's honestly my main biggest criticism that I've been seeing so far in this trailer, is just the fact that the grand majority of what we have seen, a lot of it just feels like the same thing. It really feels like we're just getting the same movie again, the same kind of action, the same moments, the same scenes, like just really nothing different. Like everything about this is just the same thing that we have gotten before. And the craziest thing is that apparently it's not just the trailer showing us that, but the director, Dean DeBlois, even confirmed this as well. He actually went and stated that they barely made any changes to the script itself. So according to the director, the movie is not going to be that different from the animated film. Like, it could be, like, I'm not saying that it will, but there are indications out there that there is a slight possibility that it could be leaning closer to what happened with the infamous Psycho incident, where it's just a full-on shot-for-shot remake without applying anything new, without applying anything original. And you know, the craziest thing is that when people would go and try to give their praise, or that they would be amazed by certain parts of it, it's honestly kind of laughable, where I would go and actually rebuke some of those. And they feel like just tacky marketing decisions. Like one major one, for example, like you'll find a lot of people where they would express positively about this. They would go and actually give praise to one part of the casting, which I'm just going to go and find it. I think it's right over here. Oops, I just went a little too much. Yeah. It's with the casting of Gerard Butler as Stoic, considering that he played Stoic in the animated films, and now he's going to be playing the live-action version. And honestly, I'm just going to say I'm not really impressed with that casting choice. Like, a lot of people are just going there like, wow, they're really committed to making this movie and feel authentic to the original. Yeah, I bet those are the same kinds of people who would say the same thing about casting James Earl Jones as Mufasa in the Lion King remake. Nah, this is just a cheap little novelty that, it's already been done, and it doesn't really, I don't feel like it really works. I mean, granted, I'll give it to Gerard Butler in this case. He's actually a pretty solid actor. And well, I mean, he's a great actor in general, but so far from the clips that we have seen here, like, yeah, he's staying as committed to the role as he did in the animated films. I am expecting a good performance from him, and that he'll probably be one of the better parts of the movie. But with that said, though, the fact of seeing Gerard Butler as the live-action Stoic, yeah, that's not going to be something that will fully convince me that this will be like this amazing new experience. And not to mention, by the way, I have to go and mention that, yeah, maybe like some of the more adult characters, like with with Gerard Butler as Stoic, or I believe it's Nick Frost who's going to be playing Gober. You could correct me if I'm wrong on that, but like those actors, they're going to be fine. But the kid actors, on the other hand, or the actors who are going to play the younger characters like Hiccup and Astrid and stuff like that, though, honestly, I was not impressed whatsoever. Like there was one little scene where we see an interaction with Hiccup and Astrid, and I gotta say, like, this is another part here where it just feels empty. Like, where is it? Yeah, like right over here when they had their chat. Whoops. Should also be important if you listen as well.
Wow, you've lost everything. Your father, your tribe, your best friend. What are you gonna do about it?
Probably something stupid.
Well, you've already done that.
And something crazy.
Yeah, even the actors here, I gotta say, like that acting, it's like low effort right there. I was honestly very unimpressed by the dynamic, and it just feels again, it just feels empty. Like I didn't really like. I know that was just one scene, but I didn't feel much of a connection between Hiccup or Astrid, or feel any form of dynamic. It's just two actors just saying their lines, and that's it. I didn't feel much of the emotion that they would go and express there. Even like the guy playing as Hiccup, honestly, his acting didn't really impress me much. And this is not to mention, some people have also pointed this out, that at the same time, even the casting in general, when it comes to the when it comes to the other kids in here, like you look at this, and honestly, yeah, the casting does not look great. I get it. They want to try to like put in a bit of effort to make them look like the characters in the animated film, but some people have even mentioned that they look way too old for their respective roles. Like these guys are supposed to be like what, teenagers and stuff like that. But honestly, like I could imagine, like yeah, I could sense that some of them actually do look more like they're my age, like they're in their 30s or stuff like that. Especially like when you see like the two in front are supposed to be freaking Rough Nut and Tough Nut, but like number one, they look so drastically different instead of being the twins that we know. And not only that, this dude right over here, I think it's either Rough Nut or Tough Nut, but anyways, this guy here, I feel like he looks like he's just like he's older than me. You know, I just feel like that. But like, yeah, like technically, I know some people are saying, well, like technically it is better casting than TJ Miller. And you do bring up a very good point. But still, though, like this feels like a case where they're casting adults as kids, or they're casting people who are much older than they're supposed to be. And on top of that, there's also another thing that I want to go and mention, and that is in regards to the dragons themselves. And when it comes to the dragons, I will say, like, okay, a lot of people also commented that at least the CG in the film actually does look good. And yeah, I will say, like, the dragons on their own, they actually look solid. Like, one good example is like right over here where, you know, the dragon, you know, that actually does look like a cool dragon. And I understand that they got to go and update some of the design so that they could look more realistic in terms of dragons. But, you know, honestly, I understand. And I mean, the look actually does feel pretty solid. But then there is one question. I remember talking to a friend of mine regarding this, and he actually brought up a very good point that honestly, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever in terms of what they would do in terms of the designs. Like, how is it that all the other dragons are supposed to look realistic, and yet at the same time, you got Toothless over here that actually looks the exact same as he does in the animated film? Like, why does Toothless look the same, but all the other dragons need to have an update? This is something that I feel like makes no sense whatsoever. Consider it, and I know some people might say that it's nitpicking, but it is something that when you notice it, you can't unsee it. Because this design is meant for animation. This is supposed to be a stylized look in itself. But why is it that you have this animated dragon and then you have these live action dragons? You know, that's the part where I feel like it's so conflicting, and it just makes it's stylistically, it just makes no sense. Again, this is something that is only comprehensible in terms of a business decision. You got to make all the other dragons look as real as possible as part of the live action remake. And you got to make them look like they came straight out of, that they came straight out of Game of Thrones and stuff like that. But then when it comes to Toothless, oh, you cannot mess with the iconography of Toothless. You got to make sure that he looks the same so that people can recognize him. It's honestly ridiculous. Like honestly, and yeah, some people have even mentioned, like, it's weird that like now you got a CGI movie that is becoming you got this, a CGI animated movie that's now being turned into a live action remake in which like a good chunk of it still has to be in CG, and that you got to do the same thing right over here. In fact, even the director admitted that they're going to go and do the same thing. So overall, this is exactly why I meant before that this trailer shows that you have to remind yourself that this is not from Disney, where even though this is not a Disney live action remake, it still falls in the same problems as all the other live action remakes, that they still have the same issues and the same pointlessness. The fact that they're just taking an animated feature that many people have loved, and now they're just translating that into live action, doing a nearly shot for shot remake, not like barely adding anything new, and just putting that out there as a whole new feature. But now it feels like there's like extra layers of pointlessness where they don't even do anything new. They don't even do anything to go and update the formula. They don't do anything that makes it different than in the original. Like even the Snow White remake, as garbage as those trailers make it look, at least it's putting in an effort to make itself a little bit more different than the animated film so that you don't get the exact same experience. With How to Train Your Dragon, on the other hand, this looks like something that it's just regurgitating the same movie. It's like they're pretty much making a whole new movie and throwing out a major budget when what they're ultimately doing is really not that different than just re-releasing the movie, but now with a live action filter, and that's pretty much it. So overall, I really am unimpressed with the How to Train Your Dragon remake. But if you are curious in checking that movie out, then keep in mind that the film will be released in theaters on June 13th. And so with that said, now that I said my piece on it, I would like to know what the chat wall has to say. So if you have any comments on what you have just seen with this How to Train Your Dragon remake, do you disagree with me and you're actually excited to see this film? Or are you upset that we're getting another pointless remake? Let me know what you all think over here. Okay, let's see what we have. I am a firm believer that good execution can save bad concepts, but this is where I draw the line. While I see Dean DeBlois has the chops for competent live-action filmmaking, it's such a waste to put all this talent into a lazy and soulless self-remake. A big Dragon fan like me isn't falling for nostalgia bait this blatant. Oh, and actually, I'm gonna go and, it seems like a good time to go and make a poll. I almost forgot about doing so. Just want to go and ask you all. Here's going to be an interesting question. Like, yeah, we know that, like, this thing is going to be pointless, but I have to ask, will you be watching the How to Train Your Dragon remake? So, hold on. Actually, let's spell remake correctly. Now we put in yes, and now we put in no. So let's go and make that poll happen. Anyways, back to what people are talking about here. Let's see. Yeah, this remake is still not grabbing me. Toothless still looks good, though. I just think he would look better in an animated film. Oh, wait, it exists. It's already 10 times better than this remake so far. Sorry, Dean DeBlois. Also, to these Disney haters that are defending this, you guys are being hypocrites about it. Yeah, honestly, this is going to be very interesting to see how the line is going to be drawn in terms of live action remakes. Like, yeah, you'll see like a lot of these people throwing all their hate on like these unnecessary live action remakes and stuff like that. But if you're going to be, I'll say this now, if you're going to be condemning Disney for remaking Snow White and Lilo and Stitch, but you're going to be supporting Universal and you're going to be supporting this How to Train Your Dragon live action remake, then it really shows that you're just being a blind Disney hater. And this is exactly why people who hate Disney are objectively more cringe than Disney adults, or how people portray Disney adults and stuff like that. Seriously, like, this is at the point that you're just desperately finding any reason to hate Disney where you're not even making sense with your own arguments. You're just for the thrill of being a reactionary idiot. And this is why people who hate Disney, like, are really not worth listening to and don't even make sense in terms of their criticisms. So yeah, be consistent with what you have to say. So yeah, it really is a case where if you want to go and draw it, like, if you want to hate on Snow White, then you better hate on the How to Train Your Dragon remake as well, because it's pretty much the same thing. Or at least from what we have been seeing in the trailers. All right, so let's see here. This trailer is not doing a good job to convince me that DreamWorks live action remakes are a good idea at all. Even ignoring how much we had enough of Disney's live action remakes, this one is just doing a shot-for-shot remake, except with the child actors acting like they know this is going to be bad and trying to get it over with quickly as possible. I mean, that could be the case, actually. They are aware, they are aware of the kind of movie that this is. It's like, whatever, I'll just get a paycheck. It'll look good in my resume. Maybe I'll get better opportunities after this. Maybe I'll be lucky. I'll be like the next Naomi Scott or whatever. Let's see now. One word, three syllables, redundant. I mean, seriously, I'm with everyone who said this before and after they saw this. It's the same movie. I mean, come on. I mean, call me crazy, but even the Snow White remake seems more anticipating than this. Yeah, it's equally as redundant, but I'll give a credit to them. At least they try to make things different, like new songs and plot points. Also, I'm seeing it for my birthday, so there's no escape. All this has is basically better animation, and that's it. No point. And judging by the poll that I've made here, it looks like you guys will not be checking it out. It's almost unanimous, with the exception of 2 people who have voted. 92% has said no, you aren't going to be watching the How to Train Your Dragon remake. So it's, well, at least in terms of my audience, it's not going to be voting well for the movie, but who knows? As long as these films keep making money, they'll still be making them. So who knows with how the Dragon movie is going to be doing at the box office. All right, so let's see. Okay, I'm going to give this the tiniest iota of praise by saying I think Mason Thames is actually pretty good as Hiccup. His performance is wasted here, but he's clearly a talented kid. Everything else? Nah. The visual effects and the cinematography and the dialogue just begs the question, why am I not just watching the original? I just feel like I'm watching the exact same movie, just with an RTX package. It's the Lion King 2019 of DreamWorks, and this, mes frères et sœurs, is why Elio solos. Yeah, I do get what you mean. And I mean, even though I was not impressed by the acting of some of the younger actors here, I'm not slamming them in general. I'm not saying that they are bad actors overall. Like, I'm sure that like the actors playing Hiccup and Toothless, like they're solid in terms of how they would go and perform, especially in other projects. But in this one here, yeah, this did not impress me whatsoever. This is not a good example of their talents. All right, I think I'm going to read maybe 2 more comments, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. Let's see. As someone who grew up with the original trilogy and despises remakes of animated movies, this isn't doing it for me. This is just a bad omen for the future of Hollywood if this becomes a box office hit. I don't want to see more live-action remakes of DreamWorks films like Shrek or Madagascar. I can't wait to skip this and go watch Elio instead. Oh God, a live-action remake of Madagascar? Ugh, that's just gonna be weird. Like, honestly, it's sad that I feel like it's not hard to actually imagine if Universal would want to go and actually do a Lion King remake style movie of Madagascar and just have these live action animals like working together. It's just, that would just be weird. Ugh. Okay. Anyways, I have never been so unimpressed by something in my life. While the dragons themselves look good, it basically looks no different than the Lion King remake, where it's just a shot-for-shot remake with nothing new to offer. Also, not only do I feel like this is an excuse to capitalize on the original, but it also only feels like an excuse for Universal to promote Epic Universe and the How to Train Your Dragon area. And you know, I've seen that argument. I honestly feel like that does feel like it makes sense, where, yeah, the timing of it feels coincidentally perfect, where this is coming out right at the same time as Epic Universe in Orlando is going to be like newly open and stuff like that, especially with an entire area dedicated to How to Train Your Dragon. So yeah, with this, it feels like a cross promotion, especially with the fact that you will be seeing like some live action versions of characters like Hiccup and Astrid and stuff like that. Like, yeah, they'll be walking around the parks. But still, though, like, I do understand how the timing of this actually does feel perfect to that. All right, let's see. I'll read one more comment here. So let's see. What do we have? You know what? Okay, let's go here. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Seriously? First Disney with Snow White, now Universal with How to Train Your Dragon. What's next? Warner Brothers rebooting The Iron Giant? Please don't do this to my childhood. If you want to watch How to Train Your Dragon, go watch the original animated film, then this. Though the dragon designs do look faithful to the original designs, but I'm not sold on this trailer. I feel like it could end up like the Lion King remake. Not box office wise, but critical wise. Exactly. Or at the very least, I feel like it's going to be that in terms of the audience reaction. It's going to be about the same as the Lion King remake. And I'll even say, like, yeah, the CG on the How to Train Your Dragon remake looks good, but you can pretty much say the same thing with the Lion King remake, where the CGI in itself on that film looks absolutely stunning. But in terms of how it is being used, it feels like the talent and the technology is being completely wasted. And I'll even say the talent and the technology is also being wasted right over here. So for those of you who are morbidly curious to go and check out the How to Train Your Dragon remake, then keep in mind that it will be coming out in theaters on June 13th. All right, so with that said, we're now going to go on to our next break. And when we do come back, we're going to go and talk about another movie that's going to be coming out at the same time as How to Train Your Dragon. We're going to be looking onto that film and how, well, I don't know if it's because of the movie itself or, well, most likely it's a business decision, but even that film, it's keeping its distance away from the How to Train Your Dragon remake. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story, we're going to be talking about the other animated film or the other movie that will be coming out around the same time as How to Train Your Dragon, which is Pixar's Elio, the movie that shows that, don't you worry, folks, Disney and Pixar are not giving up on making original films. Yes, there will be a bunch of sequels that they will be providing as well, but they're not giving up on originality, and Elio is definitely one example. And I do see in the chat wall here, you guys seem to be very excited for that feature, or at the very least, you're definitely a lot more excited for Elio, more so than you are than the How to Train Your Dragon remake, which honestly, I do not blame you. Unfortunately, though, there is some bad news and a little bit of good news to go and report in terms of Elio. And I might as well go and start off with the bad news. Unfortunately, Elio is going to be delayed. Yes, it will not be released at the same time as the How to Train Your Dragon remake, and I will get more into this later, but it will be breaking Pixar's tradition of being released during Father's Day weekend. The good news, though, is that the delay is only by 1 week. You don't have to wait too long because the only move that Elio is making here is that it is going to be moving from June 13th to June 20th. So it's not going to be that big of a difference. The only significant thing is just the fact that now it is no longer going to be coming out on Father's Day weekend, which breaks Pixar's long-standing tradition of releasing their animated features during Father's Day weekend. And now that it won't be competing directly against How to Train Your Dragon, it will, however, be competing directly against 28 Years Later, which isn't really that big of a deal considering that 28 Years Later is going for a completely different audience than Elio. Unless Elio is a much darker and much more violent movie than we may expect, then maybe there might be some similarities there. No, but I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, though. However, at the same time, Disney has also revealed that there are some other announcements that they have made, at least in terms of what they are doing in terms of release dates. One example, actually, I might as well go into the vague ones as well. I might as well go and start that off, in which they have stated that there was a movie that they planned to release on September 12th of this year that they decided to take out of the schedule, as well as a movie that would have been released on January 16th of next year, which they also removed. But at the same time, they have also added a new date for a movie that will be coming out on October 24th of this year. But these removals, however, in their place, they decided to put in some 20th century films. And one example is the James L. Brooks directed movie, which is a dramedy called Ella McKay, which will star Woody Harrelson and Rebecca Hall. And that is going to be coming out on September 9th. While at the same time, on January 30th of next year, there's going to be the Sam Raimi horror movie, Send Help, starring Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. So with these removals, they're pretty much replaced with some 20th century movies that they'll secure that time there. But what we're mainly going to be focusing is specifically in terms of Elio and the big date switch that they have made. Now, the big reason why this is considered to be significant and why it feels like a bigger deal than what it seems to be, like, I know for a lot of people out there, it doesn't seem like much. Okay, so it's just delayed by a week. It's still going to be like around mid-June that the Pixar movie is going to be coming out. No big deal. But the big reason why people are talking about it is mainly because of the fact that it stepped away from the Father's Day weekend release. And when it comes to Disney, especially with their animated films, they usually stick to a strict schedule. They don't normally do this unless it's an emergency. They love keeping up with tradition. That these traditions make it a part of having this feel like a legitimate event, something for people to go and look forward to. Like another good example is actually with the Disney animation films, the stuff from Walt Disney Animation Studios that they would go and that they would occasionally release from time to time. Or that they would go, okay, what I mean specifically, I think, honestly, I was just trailing away with my words. But what I'm talking about is the fact that with Walt Disney Animation Studios movies, they would release them every American Thanksgiving. That around like the second half of November, that's when they would go and release their movies. And they make that a long-standing tradition, and they have been proven to have some amazing results from that. And in fact, they were able to make billion-dollar hits with it, and we have recently seen so with Frozen 2 and with Moana 2 as well. And even with Pixar, they made it a long tradition where they would go and release their films on Father's Day weekend so that in mid-June, that's when people know that's when the next big Pixar movie would go and come out. And at that point, also with Pixar, I would go and make the same argument where they have found a lot of tremendous success by releasing it at that time, which is around the time in which summer would go and begin, and that kids in elementary school and stuff like that, they would be on their summer vacation. So in that regards, they would go and actually check they would check the new Pixar movie out as a way to initiate their summer vacation, to make it so that people can go and make a habit and make a tradition out of these respective release dates. But now that they decided to move back from it, now that they decided to go and delay that, like, there is a little bit of like a moment where, like, yeah, they are breaking tradition, especially if there are people out there who kind of make that like a Father's Day thing, where usually with Pixar, they could go and associate like a holiday with their release dates. But in this case here, though, they are breaking from that, but it's not going to be too big of a break. Like with American Thanksgiving, I do understand how it is a major holiday in the country, and how like releasing a new Disney movie would feel like a significant deal at like during those times. But with Father's Day, however, I'm not saying it's a big deal. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that it's not a big deal. I'm not saying that, Father's Day doesn't matter, but it's not necessarily one of the big holidays. It's not as big as like Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah or stuff like that. It's not like in that same league, but it still emphasizes that it is still part of like the June releases. So it's like not outside of the realms. It's just that it will be missing out on trying to make a connection with Father's Day. But then again, they could easily go and do so on social media and stuff like that, but it's just not the full-on release. However, I can't imagine that maybe they could try a chance to actually, like still have that opportunity, not necessarily actually really, change the release back to where it was, because I do understand why they would go and do so, which I will get to soon. But I can imagine that they'll keep the release date on June 20th, but maybe for like June 13th or maybe somewhere earlier, that they can have like one day where they would have a full-on early screening to show people what the movie is about. Disney has done that a few times where they would have like an early public screening. Like I remember I went to see Wish a few days before its official release. That I think they had it released on Mickey Mouse's birthday on November 18th. And then a few days later, there would be the official release. That's when I remember like they had that, that's when or at least I remember that's when I went to go and watch Wish on the big screen. But to go back to what I was talking about, however, like in this case here, I do fully understand why Pixar would go and do this. I do understand why there needs to be a delay, especially when Elio is competing against How to Train Your Dragon, or the How to Train Your Dragon remake, and they're both kind of going for the same audience. They're both technically these family-friendly films and these big budgeted adventure features with a lot of CG. And I mean, well, technically with Elio, it's all CG, but you do get what I mean, that they, that they would really, that they're both competing for the same kind of audience. And if they would be released at the same time, then they would ultimately cannibalize each other at the box office, where both of them would not make as much as they would want to. So they want to go and avoid that direct type of competition. But the interesting thing, though, is that even though some people could go and perceive that Disney is the one who blinked and they decided to go and move their movie away from Father's Day weekend, this could actually be a pretty good strategy. This could be something in which I feel like Disney could legitimately benefit, and that now that they have their own room to go and release their movie, they won't have to really worry anymore about the How to Train Your Dragon remake. In fact, even this article here from Deadline, it even states how it could actually help things out with their release and with Elio, in which it states here, the date shift for Elio also creates space in Disney's summer slate, giving Lilo and Stitch, which is going to be coming out May 23rd, more room to play. With the Pixar titles still ahead of anticipated blockbusters The Fantastic Four: First Steps, which that is going to be coming out in July. Elio will also be the only animated release in the wide gap between The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, which that's going to be coming out on March 14th, and Smurfs, which that is going to be coming out on July 18th. So there is that benefit that for Disney, it's like every month during the summer, they're going to have a new big movie coming out. So like in the mid, like around like the like 20th of like that respective month, they're going to have like a new big movie coming out, where the first month in that summer is going to be Lilo and Stitch. And then after that, and then a month later is going to be Elio. And then a month after that, it's going to be the Fantastic Four First Steps. So in that regard, that does actually work out. But the main reason why I think Disney might have done a smart move here is because sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes it's the one that moves out and be released later who actually ends up benefiting the most. And we have actually recently seen that occur. And that is with the Wild Robot in Transformers 1. You might have recalled several months ago, before those films were released, or at least around the summertime of last year, there was a moment where we were expecting that the Wild Robot and Transformers 1 were supposed to come out at the same time, that they both shared the exact same release dates, and it feels very coincidental that we're having two animated movies from major studios that are themed to robots coming out at the same time. But then Universal decided that they would go and delay the Wild Robot, that they would be released a little later, and want to avoid the direct competition, especially with a big name franchise like Transformers. But what ended up happening, however, is that the Wild Robot ended up reaping the rewards. I mean, yes, a big part of it is the fact that it was highly praised by critics, but the Wild Robot ended up becoming a far bigger box office hit than Transformers 1. So there is that slight possibility that maybe we could see the same thing here, that if things go really well for Elio, it might end up outgrossing the How to Train Your Dragon remake. Now, when it comes to my predictions of what could actually happen with those two respective films and how they'll do at the box office, I honestly feel like it is very hard to say. And I will say, unfortunately, that when it comes to the How to Train Your Dragon remake, I could be wrong, but I sadly do think that it could turn out to be a hit. There's still a significant amount of hype from the general audience, from people who really want to go and actually see How to Train Your Dragon live action remake, that they want to go and check it out. So I can imagine that's going to become pretty successful in its own right. But when it comes to Elio, however, that's going to be pretty tricky, because we are talking about an original animated feature, and sometimes even with a big name attached like Pixar, that's not generally going to go easy for the movie. And I'm not saying that it's going to become a box office bomb, even though there is that possibility that it could happen. But I feel like, honestly, it's really going to depend on what word of mouth is going to say, and even what critics are going to say as well. Because you got to keep in mind that if it doesn't become like a massively highly praised film, if it doesn't turn out to be like one of the best animated features of the year, that if it doesn't turn out to be something that would match up to Pixar's high standard, then that's going to be a critical blow to that movie. In fact, that's a major reason why Elemental didn't turn out to be great when it came out first, why it had such a disappointingly weak opening. But then again, with Elemental, it's thanks to positive word of mouth that it was able to actually climb itself back up to become a significant box office hit. And there is that chance that maybe we will see this with Elio as well. If the critical reception and word of mouth can be on its side, even if it did have some production troubles when the film was being made, if it's still able to go and overcome that, and it still came out strong, then at that point, maybe it'll actually turn out fine. Maybe it could actually do pretty well, and depending on how much people can really get into Elio, then at that point, maybe it could actually do better than the How to Train Your Dragon remake. In fact, I mean, like, for me, my dream scenario would be that the How to Train Your Dragon remake could probably flop, and then Elio will go and take the gold. Like, it would become a major hit, and actually, and then we'll see like an original animated film actually do better than a live action remake. That would be like a dream scenario. if that would legitimately happen, I guess time will only tell. We'll see how that goes in the summer. But honestly, I do feel like it is an interesting strategy, but I could see a direction where things can go well for Pixar and for Elio. But ultimately, I think we're going to have to just wait and see with how that will go, especially when Elio is now going to be coming out on June 20th. And with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the release date change of Elio? Do you think that's going to significantly impact how it will do in terms of its success? Do you think Elio will do better than How to Train Your Dragon, or will it be on par? Let me know what you guys think on that. All right, so let's see here. I'm honestly kind of surprised Elio ended up being delayed, considering how Father's Day weekend has been a traditional release for them, so it's kind of surprising. However, I do get why they delayed it, and it's not only to help give it room, but also to avoid the How to Train Your Dragon remake, because let's be honest, regardless of how people feel about the movie, it'll probably end up becoming a hit for Universal, regardless of the reception. It's also one of the reasons I feel like the Lilo and Stitch, and suddenly the comment is gone. Suddenly it just stopped. If you do have a continuation to that comment, I'll gladly go and read it though. Let's see now. I like to mention that Jonas Kibrieb, who is voicing Elio, is already doing a good job voicing Elio based on the trailers lately. I was lucky enough to meet him at the Annie Awards last week. He's a good, smart kid, and I wish him luck on everything he's doing. Anyways, props to Disney and Pixar for delaying Elio so that he could get a better chance to get some attention and avoiding the unnecessary dragons. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, like, say what you will with what we have seen so far with the Elio trailers. Yeah, the kid's voice acting is very solid. I mean, safe to say, I think I got a lot more emotion and more genuine feeling out of him, more so than I did with most of the actors in that How to Train Your Dragon remake, so I'll give you that. All right. Oh, dear. Let's see now. Oh dear, with Elio delayed by a week, I can't help but feel a twinge of fear, thanks to Disney's recent hiccups. But it's Pixar, so there is hope, right? Even with Elemental being a bit of a letdown, I'm optimistic they'll deliver something extraordinary. I'll still be first in line, popcorn ready, hoping they add some extra magic. Fingers crossed that Elio's alien adventure are truly out of this world. All right, let's see here. Talk about dodging a bullet. Elio's delay may have just been 1 week, but it's such a relief now that it doesn't have to compete with fake Toothless. As a non-franchise movie, I'm just hopeful Elio can generate strong word of mouth to give it the triumphant box office climb it deserves. All right, let's see what other comments are here. Oh, continue. Okay, so this is the continue. Why the Lilo and Stitch remake could be a hit. Oh, it's why the Lilo and Stitch remake could be a hit as well. Okay, I got you now. I understand what you mean. All right, so let's see here. I wouldn't say this is bad news or good news at all. This is definitely fantastic news. I'm down to see what Elio has in store, especially being an original movie. Now that it got delayed to avoid competition with the How to Train Your Dragon remake, it's a big blessing to get. I hope the delay works well for them, especially to have a healthy opening weekend at the box office. Overall, I'm genuinely happy about the delay. That's why originality rocks. Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning that there is another thing that has not been mentioned, but this is going to be something that will greatly benefit Elio, and that is the fact, like, I kind of like already alluded, but considering that the animated film after that one is going to be the Smurfs remake, and I mean, I've already talked about my thoughts about it with Animated Antics, so honestly, like, that's a different topic right there. But notice that we're not getting an Illumination movie during this summer. It's not going to be another case of like, oh, we're getting a Pixar movie and an Illumination movie coming out at the same time. The fact that it's just going to be Elio, it actually gives it more room to go and fully present itself. And I mean, yeah, I know I've stated before that usually with Pixar and Illumination, they can release their movies just fine at the same time. In fact, both Despicable Me 4 and Inside Out 2 went on to be tremendous successes in their own right. But with Elio, on the other hand, considering that it is an original animated feature, if Illumination would come in with another one of their like Secret Life of Pets or Minion movies and stuff like that, it would have like full on hindered the performance of Elio. But the fact that it is the only animated feature that's going to be coming out so far and will be getting good attention for itself, at least definitely, and like even with Smurfs coming out like the month after, like I don't think it will have to worry on that. I think honestly that's going to be something that will really help itself there. So I thought that would be something that would be worth mentioning. So once again, I just want to go and highlight, if you are excited to go and check out Elio, then change up your calendar because now it's going to be coming out on June 20th. And with that said, now we're going to go on to one more story. We're going to go on to the grand finale after this break, where when I return, I will go and mention right now, I know I've been nice to Disney, but with this story right over here, not anymore. And now, everyone, it is now time. We will cap this episode. Sorry, let me redo that. We're going to cap this episode off with the grand finale. And with this grand finale, I know that throughout this episode, I've been pretty nice to Disney. You know, I've been complimenting them. I was being nice to them. You know, I was saying, you know, I was a little bit on their side, saying, you know, a little bit on their side when talking about the whole Stolen Kingdom story, discussing about how, you know, stealing from them at the Disney parks is not really a good idea. I've also said that Disney has nothing to do with the How to Train Your Dragon remake. And I even complimented them on how their strategy with Elio, you know, it's a pretty good idea to go and delay that. And I hope that they would end up with better results with Elio than what Universal would probably get with the How to Train Your Dragon remake. But this time, however, this has no excuse, though. Honestly, this is one thing that I feel like is a change in strategy for Disney that is making me pretty upset. And honestly, in the long run, it just feels absolutely wrong. So with that said, let's go ahead and discuss about some of the strategy shift happening at Disney. And we might as well go and begin with the first major shift that they have. The one thing that is probably the most prominent and the one that people have discussed about the most. And that is regarding right over here in terms of the content warning that they would put out before certain movies would go and begin. Now, now you guys probably know that if you would go and watch some of the older movies or some of the classic animated films like Dumbo or Peter Pan, you would go and put out you would see a message in which Disney would put out acknowledging that, yeah, there are some racist things in there and that they are wrong, that we should be condemning those, that in order to have a better world, we should go and call out these things as bad. In fact, reading from my source here on Variety, they would put out a message that would go and state right over here, which it reads, "This program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together. Disney is committed to creating stories with inspirational and aspirational themes that reflect the rich diversity of the human experience around the globe." So basically, this is just a little bit of a warning to go and say that they're not going to go and edit out some of the racist or offensive things that are in the old cartoons, but they do want to acknowledge that they are wrong. However, Disney has revealed that they are going to be changing that to something that is a little bit more vague and a little bit more short. In fact, this is actually a message that they put out when Disney Plus actually started, before they changed into the bigger one on October of 2020, in which now it just reads, "The program is presented as originally created. It may contain outdated cultural depictions." Just that. That's it. Now, why would Disney would go and do this? Well, apparently this is just one part of the major strategies of the major strategy shift that they are doing in order to step back from what it is commonly referred to nowadays as DEI, or what it is more known, or if you do spell it out, it's actually diversity, equality, and inclusion. Now, I know that saying DEI, it is a hot button subject, and DEI is pretty much the new word that Republicans especially would go and use. It's like a new interpretation of other words we've heard before, such as social justice or woke or whatever. The kind that Trump supporters would go and use instead of just flat out saying the N-word. So in that regards, I'm not going to be playing that game. Instead, I'm going to be using a different term to go and describe diversity, equality, and inclusion, and I'm just going to say American values. So from here on out, you won't hear me say DEI, at least on this episode. I'm just going to go and flat out say American values, and no one's going to stop me. So from here, yes, Disney is going to be making massive changes within the company in order to step back from promoting American values. And I'm going to go and change from my source in Axios, where they actually have a whole list of how they're going to be stepping away or diminishing some American values within the company. In which it states here, one part will be other performance and factors, where beginning this fiscal year, Disney will replace the diversity and inclusion performance factor that it used to evaluate executive compensation with a new talent strategy. The new talent strategy factor includes concepts from its old diversity and inclusion factor, but is more focused on how values drive business success. So apparently, instead of going into the factors of American values, they're just going to be focusing more on the business aspect. So in that regards, not a very good look right there. Then there's also a new website and American value rebranding, or the rebranding of American values. Disney is getting rid of its controversial Reimagine Tomorrow initiative and the corresponding website, which was used to highlight stories and talent from underrepresented communities. The site, which came under fire from conservatives, was replaced externally in December by an updated hub on Disney's corporate website and also on Disney's internal website. So in that regards, this is one of the things that received the most backlash in terms of the decisions that they have done from stepping back from American values. Because Reimagining Tomorrow was one of the better things that Disney has created to go and help out marginalized groups in order to show more representation and to find more opportunities. But then, of course, you do get the far right, where they would go and throw a temper tantrum whenever there is something out there that's not catered exclusively to white people, or that white people cannot necessarily get involved. Like, if there is something in which it doesn't revolve around them specifically, then they'll get pissed off. They'll throw a freaking temper tantrum. And in that regards, that's why they would go and attack Reimagining Tomorrow, because it's not for them. It's too inclusive per se, where it treats marginalized groups like people. And then there is also employee groups. The company has rebranded its Business Employee Resource Group, or BERGs, to Belonging Employee Resource Groups. The transformation, which began last year, is meant to highlight the focus on BERGs in strengthening the employee community and its workplace experience. And that's pretty much it, because this part right here pretty much highlights what I've already discussed about in terms of how they're stepping back from American values, in terms of their content warning. And then there's also some of the political battles that they would have to go and face in the last previous years, like with the don't say gay bill, or some of the mishaps like with Bob Chapek or Chapek or whatever. So that's pretty much the big thing to go and highlight. And it even says that in terms of the big picture, the changes, while less dramatic than those introduced by other Fortune 500 companies in recent weeks, speak to the pressure brands face trying to adjust to the new expectations in the second Trump era. So that's basically the big thing, or the recent thing in which why people are so upset at what's been happening in the Walt Disney Company. And this is honestly a case where I honestly do not blame them. And there's even been reports coming out in which they've actually stated that even the employees within Disney, they are seriously concerned. Most of the people who are working at Disney, they are not cool with this, and they're honestly worried about the future at Disney, where they're just going to go piece by piece, taking away more of these American values just to go and please Donald Trump. Because as we have seen right now, Trump is really trying to go and rule America with an iron fist. That if things don't go his way, then he's going to throw his own temper tantrum, and he will treat people who are not loyal to him like godforsaken criminals. In fact, we've seen a recent example of that where he would go and punish anyone who doesn't refer to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, which is honestly so laughably pathetic, may I say. Like, that feels like a massive sign of insecurity right there. Like, I've heard of insecurity of being a man, but I've never heard of insecurity of your nationality. That honestly feels like it's the political version of that trope of people who drive really big trucks in order to go and overcompensate for the small dicks that they have. And it's the same thing here. Like, they're overcompensating their nationality because they know that being American nowadays, or at least being a Trump-supporting American, is something to absolutely feel ashamed about. If America really is if America really is a competent country, they would have put Donald Trump and Elon Musk in jail. They wouldn't let things fly where they would let them be above the law and do whatever they want. That should not be happening. But the unfortunate thing is that right now, with Trump in charge, companies are either reacting out of fear or out of complete corruption, where they have to go and completely step back from American values. And Disney is just another example. And I'll even say right now, the only defense that I could say about Disney is that, just blaming them on this factor, that's not really going to go and fully solve the problem. This is like part of a significantly bigger issue. It's more of a factor related to Trump and Elon Musk, more so than it is specifically about Disney, especially when even in this Axios article, even admitted that what Disney is doing is not necessarily as bad as some of the other companies in which they're really scaling back on American values, especially companies like Target, for example. But in the case of Disney, it just feels, it feels not frustrating, but very disappointing to see that they would try to go and comply with Trump's demands and that they would go and scale back, because what they're doing is just enabling racism. That's really what it is, because now with Trump in charge, anything that would say like racism is bad or don't be a bigot and stuff like that, it would trigger the mental illness that far-right extremists would go and have, and would cause them to go and commit mass shootings like the majority of criminals are. It's ridiculous, honestly. It really is at the point where now, because of Trump and Elon Musk, now we have to ensure that their needs have to be demanded and that racism and other forms of bigotry have to be normalized, which honestly, it's so disappointing to see. And even Disney complying to a certain extent that they would also do at the same time. And I know with Disney that what they're doing, they're primarily complying out of fear. They've been over the years, they've been consistently a target of far-right extremists again and again and again, where we have even seen far-right personalities trying to promote the idea that there should be a mass shooting happening at the Disney parks. And Disney is trying to do what they can in order to ensure that it does not happen, that you don't get a Trump supporter suddenly coming in and just shooting up a storm and taking away lives just for their white nationalist needs. It's honestly ridiculous. And honestly, I would even say, yes, it is kind of frustrating with the way that with stuff like this, they're trying to normalize racism, that that because with Trump in charge, they need to hide the messages that saying racism is bad, or don't be a racist, or don't be a white nationalist, or anything like that. It's like they're pretty much catering to the most worthless people in America, the most deplorable, the kind of people that America would be better without. And I'm not saying all Trump supporters, all Republicans are racist and stuff like that. No, that's not the case. I'm not saying all Republicans are racist, but it just so happens that all racist people are Trump supporting Americans. And in that regard, it's frustrating to see that they're the ones that are being nurtured the most, when all it's doing is just catering to the most worthless minority in America. Why even try to make them happy? They shouldn't even be in freaking America in the first place. They're nothing but spineless cowards. In fact, this is the reason why you don't see them actually do something that would be worthwhile to their community or their country. All racist people are just spineless cowards. Why? In fact, this is why you never see a racist person in the military, or a racist person working as a firefighter, or as a doctor, or anything like that. You don't see racist people because they're nothing but spineless, selfish cowards. They should be the ones that deserve to be deported instead of undocumented immigrants. At least those immigrants, they are worthwhile, and they actually do something for their country and for their family as well. While racists, on the other hand, they're just domestic abusers. They're just worthless. They're just worthless to everybody. And honestly, life would be better without them. Life would be better if they would comply to not be racist. This is exactly why hate speech should not be involved with freedom of speech. Because honestly, it just makes them worthless. It makes them worthless to their families, in which they don't deserve to raise kids, because all racist people are also child abusers. I mean, look at the documents, look at the records. You'll find out, it turns out that the grand majority of child abusers and domestic abusers are white conservative Trump supporters. Prove me wrong if that's not the case. And in that regards, just seeing and going back to the point that I'm trying to make, seeing companies now catering to those worthless deplorables, it is disappointing, and it's honestly so frustrating. And I'll even say that when it comes to Disney, I just gotta say, maybe I'm thinking a little bit too far ahead, but honestly, it makes me a bit worried about their future. Because now that they're trying to go and comply to Donald Trump, it kind of makes me worried about who's gonna be the next CEO. Because you got to keep in mind, Bob Iger is not going to be staying at Disney for long. His contract ends at the end of 2026. So it makes me worried to think, who's going to be the next Disney CEO? Are they going to pick someone who will actually help out to make the company better? Or are they going to pick someone who's just going to be a Trump slave? And in that regards, I don't know. And that's the part that makes me fear the most, is that if they're going to go and pick someone who's just going to be a Trump bootlicker, and they're just going to make Disney be worse and worse, and they will go and continuously take away even more American values from Disney, or just from our culture in general. That's the thing that honestly makes me fear the most. And this is honestly why we have, like, this is why it's more important than ever that we have to maintain those American values, that not only do we need to go and take action to go and help out marginalized groups, because it sure as hell ain't going to be the big companies like Disney who's actually going to go and do so anymore, but at the same time, that we need to go and actually take action to remind people that, yes, that bigotry and hate speech is bad, that being racist is as bad as being a pedophile, which is also why most pedophiles turn out to be racist Republicans. Again, not all Republicans are racist, but all racists turn out to be Republicans, which is why most pedophiles turn out to be racist Republicans. But going back to what I was talking about, that we need to go and take action to call out bigotry and discrimination and treat them like crimes, and that we need to cancel people for being bigots, that if you are racist, transphobic, homophobic, misogynistic, or anything like that, you do deserve to be called out as if you collect child pornography and ruin your life until you are no longer a bigot. And this is honestly why, if there is one company that we should look up to and that maybe we can have a bit of hope, is in regards to Costco. Because believe it or not, as weird as it sounds, Costco is actually one of the few companies that maintain American values, that they don't care what's going on with Trump. They care about actually maintaining important values such as those American values. And from there, believe it or not, like, they're a prominent example right now of how that go woke, go broke myth is not true at all. That it's basically it's as untrue. It's nothing more but a delusional fairy tale, like systemic racism against white people. It's impossible to be full on like systemically racist against white people. And I say this as a white person myself. And in that regards, the business has been booming. Like, Costco's stocks has been going up. They've been getting more customers on a regular basis. Things have actually been going great with Costco. And honestly, like, as much as I would love to see if Disney could go and stand up against Trump and that maybe they could do something like Costco, it's hard to imagine because they're pretty much stuck between a rock and a hard place where they kind of have no choice but to go and actually step back from American values. It sucks, but I'm just disappointed that Disney would be heading in that direction. And I know I really let out a massive rant, but I thought it would be worth saying, honestly. It's just, it's something that I just need to go and let this out of my chest and just express my, it's just really express my disappointment on what's been going on, especially at Disney. Again, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. All right, so with that said now, I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the whole strategy change with American values in the Walt Disney Company? I would love to know what you would think on this. I know I already said my full thing on this. Now it's your turn. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right. Honestly, I am legitimately angry with Disney. The fact that Disney and other companies are trying to get rid of American values to just please the orange bastard is flat out disgusting. It's no different than the ban of the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Also, this is not the only recent controversy. There's also the situation with Captain America Brave New World, where they kept Sabra, an Israel character, who also is played by a Zionist in the movie. Oh, yeah, that's another controversial one. In fact, there's also a fun fact here. Apparently, during the premiere of Captain America Brave New World, you'll notice that Bob Iger was rarely seen. Like, he was there, but he wasn't there in the public. Like, he was kind of like hiding himself throughout the whole thing. So I could imagine that could be part of the reason so that he doesn't face any of the controversies and stuff like that. Anyways, the Republicans, particularly the felon administration, are destroying everything what's left of any good reputation America had. Now it's gone, and as a Mexican American, I'm terrified. Reimagining tomorrow was everything I dreamed of, and hopefully will get my own representation on the silver screen one day, but now I can't, all thanks to Disney's blinded choice and seeing the felon hunting everything and everyone I love. We need this impeachment today. Yeah, but then again, we've seen the first round, we've seen two impeachments going on, and did that honestly do much? Did that honestly stop Trump? I don't know. I feel like at this point, I know, I'm completely against it, but more extreme, and I'll even say measures that might go beyond the realms of what is considered legal would probably be involved in order to go and legitimately stop him. Again, I am against it, but I feel like as time goes by, it's becoming more and more of a viable option on how to legitimately stop him. Okay, let's see now. Okay, I'm tired of stupid Trump and Elon Musk. I have to blame Joe Biden for bad campaign and sending weapons to Israel to kill many innocent people in Palestine, which is the reason why Kamala lost the election. Now we have to live in this Trump mess for the next 4 years. I hope great people, including women and transgender people, are safe and join the community for support, and hope we have a better American president who cares everything in 2029. Yeah, honestly, it's just, I know we're still at the start of 2025 and it's hard to imagine a better future, but sometimes holding on to hope is our best option at times. At first, I didn't look into the context of the disclaimer and thought that the change was paraphrasing, but now seeing the bigger picture with all they focus in business and not representation, this makes a big difference. Disney complying with these so-called Americans to promote pretty much white nationality is such a betrayal for all minorities underrepresented. We have to stand up for ourselves against hatred because they won't do this for us. Exactly. It's a time where you have to go and legitimately take action. Even as a Canadian myself, with all the threats that Trump has been doing, I'm honestly doing my part where I'm every time I go to the grocery store, I become a lot more cautious in terms of where it actually comes from. I'm putting in more effort in buying less American and buying things that are more locally, or just not buying stuff that are American in general. And not to mention, as a Montrealer, I feel proud of my city where we would go and proudly boo at the American national anthem. Nothing against America, nothing against the American people. It's just the people who are running America. It's Trump and Elon Musk. Those are the evil deplorables that we are booing specifically against. And if you want to be in good terms with us, then you better find a way to get rid of those pesky vermin, honestly. They just need to be exterminated. Let's see now. Again, not advocating for that, but then again, at this point, how else are we going to get rid of them? Let's see what else, what other comments would there be to say? Okay, I'm very disappointed of what Disney is doing, but not surprised. After the trans erasure invasion they enabled on Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur and Win or Lose, it's no surprise that they're ending reimagining tomorrow. I know hating on Disney is quite a tiring game experience, but when it comes to companies getting rid of diversity, that's where we let out our true critical voices. This really is sad that corporations are being cowards and plead to an evil president. And by the way, Costco is base, no doubt. Yeah, you know what? I think that might be a great way to go and end this off, is to go and say that Costco is base for maintaining their American values. And with that said, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And I would like to say thank you all so much for joining me on this. And tune in next time where we are going to go and have more crazy stories to go and cover. And with that said, if you guys enjoyed your time here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then don't forget to go and subscribe to the AniMat Live Twitch channel and the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel. You can also go and, by the way, if you are listening to this in whatever podcast service you're listening to, don't forget to go and follow me there. Rather it be on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and many more. And with that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.